What's up, adventurers? Welcome back. I'm Judd. This is Short Rest Studios, and you're watching Craft and Chat Live. And tonight we're going to work on some ancient Egyptian style terrain for my Nimble RPG campaign that I'm getting ready to start here soon. So, what we have is some terrain from the Reaper Miniatures Bone 6 expansion called the Lost Tombs of Hakir. And it is some really cool stuff. But before we jump into that, I just want to remind you, check out patreon.com/shortreststudios to find out how you can support this channel. And check out the YouTube channel, Short Rest Studios on YouTube. Put out a video a couple weeks ago. Schedule slowed down a little bit for me, but hopefully we'll be able to pick it back up soon. But I'm trying to put out videos at least every other week, hopefully every week. Let's go ahead and switch over to the desktop. All right, so what you're looking at, and I keep, if you've joined me at other times, you know I keep changing the layout of my desktop here. And that's because I'm just trying to find the best view for you guys. Because I'm trying to get it right. I think this one's going to work pretty well. So, as long as I don't hit my head on the camera. So the first thing that we're going to do, actually, so I'm going to start with this piece. There's a whole lot of other pieces. I also have some pieces of terrain that I 3D printed. They're from different places. But I have several pieces. One of them, my favorite, is actually, it's a sarcophagus with a little coffin inside, and inside the coffin is a mummy. And they all, it's one of my favorite pieces. But this is probably the most impactful piece. And it's not the best priming job, but it's going to be okay. It's given it some surface to stick to. Basically, what I'm going to do is treat this, rather than treating it like a miniature, I'm going to treat it like any other piece of terrain. I'm going to use craft paint. I'm going to mainly do dry brushing, but then I'm going to come back and add color to some of these decorative bits here. Please feel free to join in the chat if you got any questions, suggestions, you want to talk about gameplay, any of that kind of stuff. Just drop me a note in the chat. And I know at times I've had some difficulty responding to the chat, but I think I've got things set up a little better now. So that I can see what the heck's going on. So what I'm going to do, this is actually intended to all be one piece. So I'm going to go ahead and glue it before I start painting it, because it's going to be pretty easy to paint. So I'm going to use some super glue, and hopefully I've got enough in here. This, yeah, there's a little bit there. I'm running low, so I don't know if you knew this, but these particular super glue containers, you can crack that thing open and there's actually just a little tube of super glue in there and you can just replace it. So I primed these white. I was gonna prime them black, but I'm out of black primer. And for the most part with minis, I've kind of switched to white primer because I can see it better because I'm old. And it's gonna be a little difficult to get in there because it's got paint on it now. Come on. I put it in the wrong way. Gosh. Okay, there we go. Now, I actually did have to kind of do some reshaping of these things. Basically stuck them in some hot water and heated some water in the microwave and stuck them in the water and got them pliable, in order, like, this piece wasn't sitting on the floor, sitting flush. So all right, hopefully if I don't have enough glue here, then we'll just get to painting and I'll worry about that stuff later. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. I'm just having to squeeze it so hard to get anything out. There. I should have gone out and gotten some more super glue, but I'm in North Texas, and like a lot of the sort of middle of the country, come on. I think I may officially be out of super glue now. We'll see if that's enough to get it to stay on there. But like a lot of the middle of the country, we're kind of snowed in. We did actually get out and go have a burger for dinner tonight because we had to get out of the dang house. But that's the first time we've been out of the house since last Friday. And the kids schools are closed. Tomorrow still, they've been closed all week because it snowed and it snowed and sleeted, and the snow just froze, so it's like ice out there. It melted some today, but then it's going to freeze again tonight. So I brought this because I'm showing you kind of the vibe I'm going for here, kind of a sandstone-y look. I painted this guy Sunday. You guys watch me finish him up Sunday, and you'll notice that his base, this Anubis statue, I'll go ahead and move this guy over, doesn't quite match. And I really wanted it to look more like this. So I don't have, I think I know what I did. I mean, part of it was I used a wash, a shade color that wasn't quite as pronounced as the burnt sienna ink that I used on this piece. So, but then also I used some different colors, some slightly different colors of paint. So we'll see. We'll see if that super glue holds. I don't think it's going to, because there's just not very much of it. So let me get my glove on here so that I don't rub paint off of the piece while I'm attempting to add more to it. So, and of course I'm dry brushing this, so I'm going to use my texture palette here, and we're going to start. Oh, actually I meant to get another bottle of brown paint because I have a larger bottle. So I use most of the craft paint I use is from Michael's, and this is dark chocolate. I mean, honestly, any brown works for a base for these. And I had some brown primer and I was going to use that, but it, yeah, I was out. So, all right. So I kind of got my big, I've got 3 different dry brushes here. So I'm going to use my big one, my big Army Painter domed dry brush. Normally I wear, actually I'm going to go ahead and wear it because it does help me see a little bit better. Some of the details. Yeah, that's not staying on at all. All right, so should have done it before I primed it, but it's okay. All right, so we're gonna get some of our brown, and this is gonna be a pretty heavy dry brush. I might do a couple of coats of this just because I primed it white. This is really an overbrush, and actually thinking maybe I'll go get a bigger brush and just paint it. Because that's going to be pretty thin. Because I really want to make sure that this covers most of it. Yeah, let me get a different brush. Yeah, I just stepped into this thinking, oh, I'm just gonna dry brush it all, but then, yeah, I sort of wasn't thinking about, because that's how normally I would do terrain. I just sort of wasn't thinking about having primed this white. If I primed it black, I wouldn't worry so much about it. But I'm going to grab one of my big craft paint brushes. All right, these are great for, again, these are cheapy brushes from Michael's or any craft store or Walmart for that matter. So I'm just gonna just paint this sucker up, and I will definitely have to do a couple of coats. I think it might have actually been covering better with the dry brush, but that's all right. We'll definitely have to do a couple of coats on here at least to get the brown. And I'm using brown because, you know, like I said, this is a more of a sandstone look. So rather than do it like I would normally do dungeon tiles or something like that with blacks and grays in the undercoat, I'm going with brown. And there's just really cool little details on this thing, man. This is like, this is a really nice set, honestly. This whole expansion's got some cool guys in it. It's got all the, you know, mummies and that kind of thing that you would expect. But it's also got these statues of gods, and I don't know if they're really meant. I'm pretty sure they're meant to be statues because they're up on those big pedestal bases, plinths. But they're pretty cool. So I hope everybody's having a good week. I hope if you're dealing with a snowstorm, I hope you're able to stay warm and everybody's staying safe, man. It's been a been an interesting week with all that going on and everything else going on in the world. So since I'm not just dry brushing everything here, it's going to take a little longer for some of this stuff to dry. So I'm going to set, well, let's see, I'll get this. I'm not going to worry about painting the bottoms of these pieces. Can't paint right there where my thumb is because my thumb's there. And once again, I'm not gonna, this is actually the color the plastic was. Get some more of my dark chocolate. Whatever I do here, this is basically what I'm gonna do on every one of these pieces. Actually, I just did that. I don't really want to paint those bits right there because I want to try to glue them on. Gonna have to go pick up some more super glue though. So I was telling somebody earlier that part of the reason that I got into doing content creation was Black Magic Craft. I used to watch, I still watch him periodically. I don't watch him as much as I used to back in the day when I was really trying to skeleton. There's a rib cage right there. Skull. See, that's cool. I'm gonna have to go in and paint some of those details. That's where this will get fun. This part's easy and it'll look cool. I mean, you could just do this whole part that I'm gonna, the first, you know, several steps of the dry brushing and all, and this thing will look really cool. But then we really want to get in there and paint the details too. But anyway, I got started down this whole road because of Blackmagic Craft. I mean, I started, I used to be into model railroading back in the day. And when I got back into playing D&D, which I did in high school, a little bit in college, and I got back into it a lot later. I wanted to sort of transition some of my model railroading terrain building skills into the tabletop games. And so I started watching Blackmagic Craft to learn to do, I think it's a crocodile skull right there. If you can see that, see the teeth. And another skeleton. Pieces of engraved stone and stuff. It's really pretty cool. Lots of cool little details in here. Sorry, the camera is in a different place than usual, so I keep bumping it with my brush. Trying to adjust here. And I'm using some different technology, some different software than I've used in the past here. So I might stop once in a while and check on things to make sure that I'm not missing messages in the chat or anything. Okay. Yeah. That's one coat. And this guy's still wet. Some of it's not, but a lot of it still is. Well, okay. A lot of it's not, but some of it still is. That's probably more accurate. I'm going to try to get down in the crevices with this, because this is the color I want the crevices to be. You know, and like typically if I'm making terrain, right, I'm building it out of XPS foam or something like that. And so I usually do the old Mod Podge and black craft paint trick. And I actually bought a big bottle of brown craft paint because I knew I was going to be doing these things and was thinking I would do Mod Podge and brown paint to be able to use for, you know, building some terrain. And I just never did it. I used black on those pieces that I built previously. Yeah, this is going to take a few coats. All right, well, why don't we I'll just grab another piece to work on. Here's another one. There's a couple of these, 2 or 3 of these. It's like these wall sections with hieroglyphs on them. There's a lot of pieces in here. Some pillars and you know, this arch thing. And there's the sarcophagus. It's really a neat set. Reaper's really, the Bone 6 really, there's a lot of good stuff in it. Reaper in general, I really like their products. But you will sometimes, especially I think getting these big box sets, you'll find pieces that kind of get bent in the package. But it's real easy to fix that. I did a bowl, a glass bowl, Pyrex bowl or something with a lot of water in it. And I heated it in the microwave for about 5 minutes. And it was pretty hot. And so I was able to just drop some pieces down in it. They got hot pretty quickly and the plastic got soft and pliable. And then you can just bend it back where it wants to go, where it's supposed to go. And drop it in some cold water, or at least not hot water, and it'll harden right back up. Like I said, this big piece over here didn't want to sit flat on the tabletop, and I dropped it in. I did that little trick in it. It's great now. Okay. Yeah. I'm just painting these guys too fast. Let's see. I don't know if I want to do the I don't know if I want to do the sarcophagus yet. So I'm going to grab one of these 3D printed pillars that I did. And unfortunately right now I can't remember who made these, who designed these. But I'm going to do the same thing here. Oh, look. Got some fuzz stuck in my primer there. And these are printed with filament, which means they have layer lines and all that stuff in them. And I know a lot of people are really don't like that. And if they print something with filament and they want to paint it, they'll, you know, sand it down and get smooth out all the layer lines and everything. And honestly, I don't care that much, but at the same time, I do also think that in some ways, it kind of helps make them look a little more like aged, you know? You get more difference, more variation in the color with the paint when you do dry brushing and stuff. I think that's the bottom. That is the bottom. I don't think I was going to paint that, but oh well. It can't be the bottom. It's not. This is the bottom. Next time I should print them upside down so that the top will be smooth. This is much different than the kind of painting I usually do on this channel. So guys, I don't know if you're into gaming streamers or not. My daughter, Lixie_MC, is a gaming streamer, and she'll be on tomorrow night at 7 p.m. Streaming this game Killer Frequency that she's really excited about. So if you're into that kind of thing, check it out. She was very excited because we discovered a way to play some Windows-only games that were available through Steam on our Mac. So, and I know it's tough. She loves video games and wants to stream video games, but all we own is Macs. And, you know, historically, video game developers don't spend a lot of time on Mac. So it's often hard to find games. Let's see here. Man, this stuff is drying slow. Really slow. Should probably turn on a fan in here or something, right? But it's cold. All right. So, yeah, we definitely got to put some more brown paint on there. Got a little build up in my pillars that I don't want. And this actually, like this works better, I think, with the black, because it's, you know, you don't have to necessarily cover up the black. Peter, hey, how's it going, man? I only missed you by a couple minutes. These are Reaper. These are Reaper from Reaper's Bone 6 Lost Tombs of Hakir expansion. Big set. Get a ton of minis and terrain pieces and all kinds of stuff. So the pillar that I was just painting is 3D printed. I don't know. I can't remember where I got it from, and I can't look it up right now. So all right, let's see. Like, I don't want to rush things, but we got to get moving, huh? And normally I don't use my wet palette for this, but it was weird. I think I kind of walked into this thinking I was gonna just paint it like I usually do terrain, and then I get out my wet palette. And I don't use a wet palette when I paint terrain, typically. And I just didn't even think about it. So it's probably going to need to be a good 3 coats for these pieces. Yeah, if you happen to, anybody out there watching happens to live in North Texas, Reaper Miniatures is actually headquartered in Denton, Texas, which is about an hour from my house. So I like to support them, but also I really love their products. And they also have recently come out with their own RPG, Dungeon Dwellers, which I've got a PDF copy of what's about to come out. It was on Kickstarter, and I think that actually it may be out already. I think the books were supposed to come out around the holidays, but yeah. But it's a pretty cool game. Pretty cool game. It's a D20, so it's based on D&D's 5e's D20 system, but it's got a much more old school vibe. If you're into that, I would say it's probably like a bridge game, like between OSR and modern TTRPGs, like a Shadow Dark or something like that, but not like Shadow Dark. It's not a rules light game by any means, which I would definitely classify Shadow Dark as. Hello there in New Zealand. Thanks for joining us. Man, I keep missing you guys. I keep missing these by about 2 minutes. I really am trying to keep an eye on things. I don't know how to say your name, but thanks for joining us from New Zealand. What time of day is it in New Zealand right now? And I'm sure you probably hear this all the time, but some of my favorite movies are filmed in New Zealand. And I think they might actually all have been directed by Peter Jackson, even the ones that aren't Lord of the Rings. Actually, the only other one I can think of is Frighteners, which is definitely directed by Peter Jackson. I'm going to try to will these things to dry faster so that we can move on from painting things brown. Yeah. Unfortunately, I'm having to hold it to get this painted. I'm having to hold it in the place that I just painted. So, come on. Sorry, moving out of the shot a little bit there. Sorry about that. Blue Nova, 2:36 p.m. on the 29th. We are talking to someone from the future. That's cool. Well, hey, Blue Nova, thanks for joining us. It's good to have you. Okay, don't do that. Did you see me do that? Don't do that. I just started trying to brush up a wet spot on a drying piece. Well, you don't do that because it's going to gum up and you're going to mess up your paint. I love Nimble. I've kind of over the last couple of years formed a bit of a relationship with Evan Diaz, who designed it, because I and some fellow YouTubers, I actually did, so full disclosure, Nimble sponsored a video of mine, a review video. I reviewed the product, sort of a pre-Kickstarter review. And but in truth, really, I don't review products that I don't like because I want to try to stay positive. I feel like everywhere in general, really, there's enough negativity, and D&D YouTube is no exception. And I try to just do positive stuff. I talk about the stuff I like. If I don't like it, I just try not to talk about it. Unless, every once in a while, when WotC and Hasbro have done something ridiculous, I'll say something, but I usually try not to. Anyway, Nimble, yeah, 5e will never be that. But 5e is not, there's no motivation for 5e to ever be rules light, right? I mean, and I'm not even saying that as a out of cynicism. Like, I'm not even saying that because they wouldn't be able to sell as many books, They're not worried about selling books anyway. But, you know, nobody, if it were rules light, nobody would have to use D&D Beyond to build their characters. Which, incidentally, I just did a video about that, how fast it is to build characters in Nimble compared to 5e. And no, I did not build a 5e character on the video because that would have taken forever. But it literally, I built 4 characters from scratch for Nimble in about 12 and a half minutes. So, and you can check out Short Rest Studios on YouTube if you want to see that video. Oh yeah. Yeah, Nimble is so anyway, back to Nimble. How am I finding Nimble? Yes. So Nimble began, Evan created it as sort of a homebrew, a set of homebrew rules to kind of speed up combat in 5e. And that still exists. Like, you can still purchase that set of additional rules from them, but they've made it's a full-fledged RPG now, and it's very much about being fast and tactical. So it does away with things like standard initiative, which, you know, sounds like it could be a bad thing. Like, I don't particularly like that Daggerheart did away with initiative. I think you got to have the right group of people to do that, and it can work great for the right group of people. But Nimble has its own way of doing it, and but the best thing about it is that there's no attack roll. You just roll your damage dice, and if you roll a 1 on your damage dice, you miss, but everything else hits. And if you crit, which is rolling the max on your damage die. Hey there, Lixie. I already plugged you. You missed it. This is what happens. Now I've forgotten what I was saying. But when you roll a crit, which is the max on your damage die, so like if your damage die is a d6 for your short sword, then you get to roll it again. And if you keep critting, you keep rolling again. So exploding damage dice, which is really a lot of fun, and it moves so fast, and the way that it's set up, it is so easy to plan and be tactical with your group, and it's really a lot of fun. And this will be my first time running it. I played it with Evan, been reading the books for ages, because we did an actual play on my YouTube channel. Me and Evan ran it, and who else was on there? Stephanie plays games, and what's his name? Oh my goodness. It's like Wizards and Wordslingers. Is that the name of his channel? Yeah. So yeah, the initiative symbol, the initiative in Nimble is really fantastic. And the lower dice, yeah, that's the cool thing. Like, you do, if you are using a bigger weapon, you have the advantage of, you know, doing more damage at any given time. But smaller dice, like a D4, will crit 25% of the time. You know what I mean? So, and a D12 doesn't. So you could conceivably just completely destroy somebody. Yeah, with a dagger. All right. I guess I'm going to paint this part of the sarcophagus, because this stuff is drying real slow. So this is the main part of the sarcophagus, but it's got a lid, and it's got a little coffin that goes in there, and inside, and the coffin has a little lid, and there's a mummy that goes in the. It's cool. They also have there's mummified cats in this set, which I think is pretty fun. And I will definitely be making use of those. But it's honestly going to be some time before my players get to this part, the tomb. But you know, So yeah, Nimble is great, and it's there's a lot about it that's like, as far as like the world and adventure design and thing, not design. I don't want to put this the wrong way. Like, Evans and my taste are probably a little different. Like, I do prefer like more old school kind of adventures. Um, and I feel like he likes his taste is a little different, and the game, the world of the game, and that kind of thing are a little different from my typical taste. But I love the system so much. Um, in fact, the campaign that I'm running started out, I think I said this on Sunday on the stream, started out as a DCC Dungeon Crawl Classics campaign, but I figured out that my players didn't really like Dungeon Crawl Classics because they didn't want to die that easy. And you know, they always know that dying is a possibility, but it is a lot easier to die in DCC than most other games that I played. Follow Short Rest on the socials. Don't forget to do that. I am on TikTok, and I put shorts out there, and on YouTube and all that stuff. So I'm everywhere except Twitter. I'm not on Twitter. I couldn't deal with that anymore. Man, it's good to have some folks here, just talking tonight. It's makes it more fun. So. And you guys let me know too if I do get out of the shot, because sometimes I do. Sometimes I get so focused on what I'm doing that I don't realize that I've moved somewhere where you can't see. And if I'm going to do that, I may as well just paint and not live stream. So yeah, Nimble is kind of my go-to for this particular group of friends, and it is. I did a 2025 best of TTRPG, best TTRPGs of 2025 video. I can't speak now. At the end of last year, and Nimble was at the top of it because it really is fun. And as a game master, I don't have a hard time running 5e, but the truth is I just make up a lot of stuff as I go. And I have a guy, like, I am running a 5e game. I run it. We play every other Tuesday. We're playing this coming Tuesday. And I have a guy there that like knows all the rules. He knows how everybody's character works, but he's not a jerk about it. So it's actually cool. I mean, he's a big help. It's nice to have people like that aren't butt heads. And Abdul is a cool guy. He's a cool guy, and he knows D&D very, very well. But my memory, I've never had a good memory. And, you gotta keep up with all that stuff. I like a rules light system because first of all, it's easier for me to keep up. I mean, I'm not going to lie. It is easier for me to keep up with the rules if there are fewer of them. I mean, that's, that would seem to be obvious, but also I like sort of the old school, like I feel like I like making rulings as a DM or a GM, and I try to be fair, and I know some GMs can be jerks, but I feel like that's an integral part of the game that some games lose, like Pathfinder, for instance. Like, I played Pathfinder for a while. I didn't run it. I played with a group of folks that really enjoyed it. It's pretty, Pathfinder is pretty crunchy, and everything is spelled out. Like there is nothing, there's no situation that's left up to the game master to adjudicate, really. And a lot of people like that. In fact, I have a friend who I don't know if he's watching this. He's been on the stream chats from time to time. He loves it for that reason, and I don't for that reason. Like, yeah, it's just not my favorite. I like rules light systems because I feel like they do provide more freedom as a game master because you don't have so many rules. And so then it's easier to kind of focus on the game and adjudicating and telling stories. Yeah, Nimble does have a very good third-party license. I do feel like it is a less well-known system, and of course, this is what happens to me. Like, I decide, hey, I like this system a lot, and then Draw Steel comes out, and Daggerheart comes out, and everybody forgets about Nimble. And I think that's probably, a lot of publishers are going to be you're going to see smaller indie folks doing stuff for Nimble, like independent folks or the Nimble company themselves doing content for Nimble, because it's just not as big as some of the other new players in town, and unfortunately probably won't ever be. I think it deserves to be, but yeah, I would, and look, you can, yeah, I agree. More fun with indie TTRPGs. I mean, I start out playing D&D. I still love, I like 5e. I think it's a good game, but it is what it is. And there's just so much right now. There's so much great TTRPG content being made and so many great games being made. And I will always, I don't know, I want to champion those games. And I mean, even the ones that I don't necessarily like I'm not a big fan. So I don't usually talk about the stuff I don't like, of the Powered by the Apocalypse games. I don't know. I feel like I need a little more structure than those provide. And I mean, maybe if I had a good deal more experience playing them, I would feel differently. But the thing is, it's just not for me, right? Tons of people love those games, and I do think that they're well done. I just don't think that they're for me. Blades in the Dark. I think it's cool. It's interesting. It's not for me. Savage Worlds, I don't know. I can't decide. I have some acquaintances, shall we say, that actually work on that game, and they're cool people, and I think it's an interesting system. I don't know if it's for me. I haven't had a chance to play it, so I do love Call of Cthulhu. I love Chaosium's stuff. The basic role-playing system is cool. As a GM, I will tell you, it's a lot harder than... There's a lot more to keep up with, and players have to... When characters are built on skills instead of classes and all that, there's a lot more for the GM to keep up with in order to keep the story moving and adjudicate on events. So, but I love the vibe of Call of Cthulhu, especially. Like, I'd love to play RuneQuest. I don't think I'd want to run it, but I do like running Call of Cthulhu. Or Pendragon. I'd like to play Pendragon too, like the King Arthur game. Yeah. Yeah, like, I mean, one of the things that Nimble did, speaking of things that D&D won't change, one of the things that Nimble did was got rid of ability scores. You just have modifiers, and that led to you don't roll for your abilities because, I mean, think about it. Because Nimble is also intended to be compatible with D&D. Am I going to sell my setting? So here's the thing. I have this whole world, and this is a relatively new part of that world. Like I didn't really think about this. It came out of something else we were doing, but I decided I want to add this to my existing world. And I'm actually, for a couple of years now, I've been working on a novel, and I would actually love to find a way to not only finish that novel, but create an actual role-playing game setting. And I'd like to do it system agnostic so that anybody could use it, but I don't know. I feel like system agnostic stuff just doesn't sell as well, you know. Like it might even be better to do it for a smaller system. It's either that or you go in and, you know, create a version for every system you want it to be compatible with, and that's a big undertaking. But I'd love to, because it does have, I mean, I kind of have the typical fantasy races, but they're named differently and they function a bit differently than they do in most fantasy, a little bit. And I've taken a lot of inspiration from some of my favorite settings as well, and from, you know, world cultures and mythologies. And I'm really interested in, I'd love to flesh it out as a setting. Okay, so I love sci-fi, always have. I think I got into fantasy first, but sci-fi was very soon thereafter. I've never really played the only sci-fi RPG I've ever played was Robotech back in the day. Speaking of which, that would be cool. Oh, that would be cool. If you're familiar with the game Lancer, like it definitely is that Robotech kind of vibe, mechs and all that stuff. It's a really neat game. Man, it would be cool to have a Nimble version of that, like port Lancer over to the Nimble system. That would be fun. Man, these are taking forever, dude. These are really taking forever. It's the white. It's because I primed them with white, man. But yeah, so this particular setting I think I spelled this out on the last stream, but you know, I know not everybody was there, so that's cool. It is a sort of a lost empire. The emperor was, you know, an evil emperor, because you gotta have one of those, right? And he was essentially just trying to take over the world, and he found himself in possession of an artifact of chaos that was empowering him to do things that no mortal should be able to do. And was using that power to conquer lands and peoples, and the gods, even the gods of chaos. The gods of chaos and the gods of law came together to banish this entire empire from the face of the earth. The world, not the earth. Gun smoking goblins, D&D with less magic. Oh yeah. Have you ever played oh my goodness, I just blanked on it. The Weird West one. What's it called? It's a setting for Savage Worlds, but it's also its own game. Oh my goodness. I'll have to look it up. I cannot for the life of me remember the name of it right now. But it's pretty cool. Yeah, I dig that kind of vibe too. Like that's fun stuff. Deadlands. Thank you. Yes, Deadlands. Yeah. Yeah, it's really cool. And these are all things like, I don't know if you guys get much chance to go to conventions, but if you haven't gone to one, go. Because you get so many opportunities to try out different games and meet people, and as like me, because of my content creation and all that, like sorry, bumped the camera again. I get to meet people that design games and stuff like that, and if you go to a convention, I guarantee you, depending on how big it is, that you'll meet people who work in the industry and all that kind of stuff, and you get to hear their passion, and man, it's really cool. And just getting to play all those different games, and sometimes getting to play games with the people who design them. I mean, one of my favorite memories of I went to North Texas RPG Con, which is a pretty widely known convention and well attended. I went there a couple of summers ago, and Kelsey Dion, who designed Shadow Dark, was there, and I got the opportunity to play Shadow Dark with her as my game master, and that was a lot of fun. It was a whole lot of fun. I love convention games because you can do all the crazy crap that people would get mad at you for doing in a regular weekly game. Starfinder. Yeah, I haven't really gotten into Starfinder at all. I mean, I have looked into Pathfinder and played it some, but never really. Yeah, like I said, that's not really my vibe. So I kind of didn't worry about Starfinder, because I figured if I didn't like Pathfinder, I probably wouldn't like it. And I've been so into just discovering new games and indie games and stuff that I've had my plate full. So yeah, playing that game with Kelsey Dion was there was a point where there's like where everything's in the dark, right? You're in a dungeon or a cavern and you're in the dark, and there's like this well and you hear a sound, and I'm like, I was like, I kind of want to just throw a torch down there, even though it seems like I shouldn't, because something had happened already, and we determined that we didn't want to disturb whatever was down there. And I was like, I kind of want to do it. And Kelsey said, I kind of want you to. So I did it. And that's not the kind of thing you would, I wouldn't do that in a regular game. But at a convention, everybody's either going to die or never see each other again. So what do you know? What does it matter? Shannara. Is there a role-playing game based on Shannara? I mean, I'm familiar with the books. Terry Brooks. I didn't know that was a thing. So if you've ever read the books, yeah, I mean the setting turns out to be different. I think Brooks became a much better storyteller as time went on and a much better writer. But the first book um, is like almost a beat for beat ripoff of Lord of the Rings. I mean, yeah, it's pretty crazy how many, like, how did he not get in trouble for that? I don't know when I don't know when that was published. Was it published? If it was published early enough, he might have just been able to copy it and nobody could have done anything. But I don't want to accuse anybody of being underhanded. Certainly. The books did get better though, and there was still something charming, something endearing about it, and at least enough to make me want to read more of them. I never like finish the series or whatever. Or I guess you don't really finish that series, but I never really did continue with it after a few of them. But yeah, it's pretty amazing how similar it is to Lord of the Rings. Of course, he also wrote Hook, the novelization. I think it was the novelization of the movie. I don't think it was the other way around. Okay, like some of this looks really good. Some of it does not. The base is still... I keep hitting the microphone now. Yeah. So the reason I kind of said what I said about, I don't know exactly when that first book was published, but Lord of the Rings was originally published in paperback in the United States like in the 60s, and through some unseen loophole or something, Tolkien didn't, basically there was a copyright loophole that allowed for the publication of those books in paperback in the US, and Tolkien didn't get a cent. He was not paid anything for those, but they led to the hippie movement loved Lord of the Rings, and it led to that, and sort of Tolkien becoming his work becoming as 77. So it might, I don't know when that became I don't know. I'm just guessing stuff, man. I'm just making stuff up over here. I don't know what I'm talking about. I was just wondering if that fact that there was those copyright loopholes that had anything to do with that book getting published. Because it reads like somebody just really loved Lord of the Rings and wanted to write their own version of it. And he was a young guy. He was a new author, so everybody's got to start somewhere. But yeah, it did kind of reignite fantasy as a genre in this country for sure. So you guys tell me if you read fantasy. I mean, I'm assuming a lot of us probably do. If we play fantasy tabletop role-playing games, fantasy or sci-fi, like who are some of your favorite authors, some of your favorite books? Like those, that's kind of the earliest stuff I read. And of course I've read the first fantasy was probably honestly Chronicles of Narnia. See, some of that's just still wet. then The Hobbit very soon thereafter, and The Hobbit is still to this day probably my favorite book novel. And let's see, who else? Then I got into sci-fi when I was in high school. I mean, I was reading all the old stuff, Asimov and Heinlein and all those guys. And I still have a soft spot for that stuff. I don't read it as much as I used to. So who are some of you guys' favorite authors? So Terry Brooks, like I said, I read the book. I've read several of the books. I mean, obviously I liked it enough, but you know. Gosh, guys, this is getting a little bit crazy. I think that one looks pretty good. Of course, it's easier with the black primer. Trying to put so many coats on these things. It's pretty crazy. Getting a lot of chatter from YouTube, not too many on Twitch tonight. Sixth grade, 78. Wow. Yeah, I love The Hobbit. Like, that's still, I mean, I love Lord of the Rings, but The Hobbit's probably still my, it's probably still my favorite, and a lot of that's just nostalgia. Who else do I like? I love Robin Hobb, actually, for recent, more modern kind of fantasy stuff. Ted Williams. I love some of the yeah, hey, thank you for joining us tonight, man. And yeah, have a good day. All right. I can't remember what I was saying. Fritz Leiber. I love some of that classic pulp fantasy. Fafford and the Grey Mouser. Jack Vance. The Dying Earth books. Love those too. Man, this paint just isn't drying. I think it must be something about the plastic, because it's dried a lot faster on this guy. Of course, I can't do anything with that either, because it's still got a couple of small spots that need to dry. Harry Harrison sounds familiar, but don't think I'm familiar really with either of those authors. That's the thing, man. There's so many of them, so many good ones. I'm just trying to let my stuff chill here for a minute and hopefully dry. I'll tell you what, I'm going to take a quick break to go get a fan, and I'm going to put a fan over here so that maybe this stuff will dry a little bit faster. So give me just a few minutes and I'll be back. All right, I'm back. We're going to see the trick in here is figuring out where to put the fan because I don't have a lot of space. And so now I've got to figure out where to plug it in. I've got it sitting right in front of me. Hopefully that's not making too much noise for you guys. Ah, yeah, okay. That would be why I've heard of that name. Harrison, yeah, Soylent Green. Man, I'm gonna sound like an idiot, but the guy who wrote I Am Legend, I like his stuff a lot too. I've read a few of his things, and I'm blanking on his name. I know that fan's making a little bit of noise, guys. I'm sorry. I'm gonna try to. I just got to do something because this stuff isn't drying, so I can't move on. You guys are just gonna watch me paint paint stuff brown all night. Wouldn't be the first time that happened, but. So, by the way, just to remind you, patreon.com/shortbuststudios. If you're interested in supporting the channel, I would deeply appreciate that. No pressure, though. I'm just glad to have you with me tonight. And this is, I'm planning on this being my regular schedule. You know, Wednesday nights, 7 p.m. I have been doing Sunday afternoons, but I actually feel like this is easier. There's still a little bit of wet on there. Richard Matheson, thank you. That's his name. All right. And there's still one little spot that's wet on there. We'll talk for a minute. So I can show you some of the non-terrain stuff that's in this Lost Tombs of Hakir expansion. So here's one of the god statues. Of course, you saw Anubis earlier, but I've already painted him mostly. So and let's see. Huh. I don't know where that red came from that's on his neck there. Huh. Interesting. But he looks cool. And this might be my favorite one. I'm actually really excited to paint this guy. And there's another one that's a hippo, and I don't know. I think she might be the one that came off her base and is floating around down here somewhere. And there's a mummy lord guy here. Actually, is he from this, or is he from? No, he's from this. He's from this one. Because I bought some other minis around the same time to use in this. And there's like some giant scorpions and stuff, but this is one of my favorites. It's a giant beetle. Once again with some red stuff on him. I wonder if paint's coming off of some of the, there's a couple of things in here that I painted, but they were sort of temporary paint jobs. I thought I sealed them though. But he's also driven by a little beetle person. So one of my favorite things about this set. Where the hippo goddess is. She's around here somewhere. there's going to be all kinds of, you know, cultists and mummies and all that kind of fun stuff in here in my campaign. All right, this one is dry, so I'm going to move my two main pieces over here closer to the fan so that they have a chance to dry. All right, now we really will get on to some dry brushing. Dry that off. All right, get my big dry brush. And next up, I'm gonna do some, let's see, what do I want to do next? I kind of do a lot of colors, like maybe one more color on this than I typically do. So I'm gonna go with my caramel. And this is usually I get my craft paint from Michael's, but this is from Walmart. It's all kind of the same. It is way too cold in here for this fan, but here we are. All right. And this is going to be kind of an overbrush situation. Like I'm going to get it down in the crevices, and I don't need the spots from it. It's kind of bothering me. So this is not so much dry brushing as over brushing. Let it get down in the crevices, but some of the deepest cracks and things like just are still going to be the brown. And if any of these other things are dry enough, then maybe I'll actually do this to them too. So after I do this, I'm going to do a little yellow ochre, which is actually just a shade brighter than this. And there's some, you can see there's some issues with the print right there. That's okay, hardly anybody will see that. I don't care. Overhangs get tricky sometimes. Now these colors, like I will not worry one bit about these not being even, right? Because really the idea for these is that they're ancient, weathered. You know, this he's going to be basically a mummy lich, and his tomb's been lost for 10,000 years. 10,000 years will give you such a crick in the neck. And that's pretty cool for now. And one of the nice things about that is you begin to see more of that detail. Okay, this here is actually dry, so I'm gonna see if I can't just get enough on here to fill in some of these light spots. And there are definitely just some spots that are still white. And one of the good things is I'm going to put an ink wash on all of these pieces at the end, and that ink wash is going to fill in a lot of the deeper spots, which means that some of those areas that are still white will get some color. And then after I finish with these guys, these pieces, I can get back to some miniatures or building something. I actually have a pyramid that I started on. Actually, I pretty much built it. I just have to paint it. And that's going to take a lot of Mod Podge. I'm just kind of trying to make sure I get everything covered. I may have to come back to that one. I may have to come back to this one and get inside the arch. Let's see if I can paint the base now. Yeah, looks dry. Okay. That's just about gone. So again, I'm not painting these parts on purpose. I've got paint on them, just, you know, it just happened. Like I'm seeing. Well, as you turn things at different angles, and you start to see the white spots that you missed, that you couldn't see before. All right. So I just finished, since we were talking about fantasy and science fiction literature, I just finished a reread of Lord of the Rings and rewatched the movies. Of course, we own the extended editions. And man, I just love, like, there are definitely some things about the movies I don't like Peter Jackson's style. I mean, there's just some things that I'm like, they're ridiculous things that, like, why I don't understand why that choice was made at all. There I went again. This is the reason I moved my camera in the first place and put it up higher, because I kept bumping it with the brush, but I feel like that's a better, I feel like I'd rather hit it with the brush than you guys not be able to see it. Not be able to see what's going on. So, but I do love the movies. I've always, like, I have issues with Legolas in those movies. And just the ridiculous things that he does. Like surfing down the elephant's trunk. You know, just the fact that he uses a bow in close quarters combat really bothers me. A longbow, no less. Isn't it? No, maybe it's not. But either way, like standing right on top of somebody shooting them with a bow and arrow. There's a reason that you have disadvantage doing that in D&D, right? And then in the Hobbit movies, there's a part where he's running across like a collapsing bridge, and it's almost like slow motion. I think it is slow motion, like you're watching him just step on the bricks as they're in the air and run across this collapsing bridge. It's ridiculous. And like, I do know that they're fantasy movies and all that. It's just, come on, man. There comes a point where it just looks dumb. And I kind of feel that way a lot with the stuff that he does in those movies. But that said, they are some of my favorites. And I feel like, no, they're not exactly like the books. In fact, there are lots of differences. But they do capture the most of the story, and the feel, the spirit of the books really well. And now I'm reading How to Be a Game Master by Justin Alexander. Just because even though I already am one, I still want to learn to be better. This one isn't right either. Alright. See, under normal circumstances, what I would do now is paint this color on all the pieces, and then come back and do the next color on all the pieces. But since we're still waiting on these to dry, got a little bit of extra buildup right there. Then, since we're still waiting on those to dry, then I'll just go ahead and move on to the next color. So, and I've got a lot of caramel in my palette. For whatever reason, this yellow ochre, this is folk art. Yellow ochre is super thick, man. Super thick. I guess stuff looks like mustard. But okay. So I want a little bit less on the brush this time. And again, I'm still kind of letting it get down in some of those deeper areas, but I'm staying out of the lighter crevices now. And it won't be so mustardy once I do everything else. But I feel like trying to capture that ancient Egyptian sandstone-y kind of look, like you kind of need some yellow in there, you know. And one of the beautiful things about this is that you don't have to be super precise either. Just trying to get all that water out of my brush there, because you can't have a dry brush if it's wet. Alright, so now we'll go to Beachcomber Beige. It's a little bit lighter beige color. You could totally do this without the yellow. This still isn't the lightest dry brush that I'm going to do. Because I am going to do an off-white as a highlight here at the end. And that's really just going to be on, it's a highlight, it's going to be a real highlight. It's going to be like just on the highest points. Terry Goodkind, yeah, I wasn't really a fan. I read a couple of those books, and it's kind of one of those things where, like, I read the first one and I was like, oh, I'll give him a chance to get better, and I didn't feel like he did. But hey, I'm glad you like him. I mean, really, like, you know, everybody's different. Everything's not for everybody, you know. there's a lot of those books. And they tried to make a series, a TV series out of that too, didn't they? And the Shannara books, they actually did one that lasted a couple of seasons, right? Wilbur Smith's Egyptian series. Another one of, man, you're just stumping me all over the place. I thought I was well read. Alright, I'm just going to have a little bit of this vanilla. It's just an off-white. Ow. That was me bumping the table. So this is going to look... It's going to look like too much. But it's not. I'm just trying to get a whole bunch off here. Because I really do just want it to be a highlight. Okay. Alright, so now I'm going to kind of come down from the top. And I'm doing this very lightly. Realized I didn't paint the top of this at all with any of the other colors, so I'll have to go back and do that. I don't know how in the world I did that. So, and I'm just kind of very lightly doing this, and I want to get like this beetle here. I want to get the edges of that and really make the edges of the carvings stand out. I'm going to get it on these raised areas. And I'm just trying to get around the carvings really well to bring out the edges. And I'm not really worried about getting any underneath the top area because, you know, some of these that are already finished, but I was going to show you so that you could tell what they look like. But first, we're going to go ahead and do the top, which I somehow forgot to do. Something's wrong here. The color doesn't look right. Does not. I always forget that it takes me like 50 more paper towels to do dry brushing than other stuff. One of the first characters I ever hated on a personal level. Huh. I might have to check those out. So it's like actually like, is it like ancient Egyptian stuff kind of thing? Yeah, the first fictional character I ever really hated, wow, was Shane in The Walking Dead. And by the time they killed him, I had been really, really, really ready for it to be over. Yeah, I was so glad when Shane finally died on The Walking Dead. I liked that show a lot for a long time, and then kind of gave up on it because it got too, it just got too brutal, and I liked it best when it still kind of had that moral center when Rick wasn't going off the deep end. Oh, okay, yeah, alternate history. That's cool. Those kind of books are fun when they're done well. Wilbur Smith. Yeah, I can watch a show or read a book about really horrible things happening, but there's got to be some kind of, come on, there's got to be like a somebody to root for, or I can't do it. All right, we're gonna do the mustard, yellow ochre, the world's thickest craft paint. Yeah, I agree. Zombies are overdone. Like zombies in D&D. Like, I feel like they got to put zombies in every D&D adventure, and like they're the worst. They're not scary. They're just annoying. But yeah, I agree. There's a lot. Like I started. The Walking Dead was kind of the beginning of this zombie zeitgeist that, you know, that I guess we're still kind of in. And at first it was cool, but yeah, I got tired of it. Okay, and back to our caramel. That's what happens when you 3D print stuff. You're just going to get that texture, whether on the top, whether you want it or not. Okay, and now we're going to get our vanilla. I'm looking at the base for that big piece, and it's still not dry. It's mostly dry, but it's really got to be all dry, or it's not going to work. So, yeah, it's too much white. Still on the brush. Just trying to hit it lightly. I don't really usually worry about uneven colors with this kind of stuff, dry brushing things like this, but there's like that, I don't like that. Like, I need some more, I need to be able to smooth that out some. Okay. There's that. You can see we got a little buildup of some other colors in there inside, but that's okay. That's okay. Now, I'm gonna grab my just a regular brush here, and I'm going to get my, this is acrylic ink, burnt sienna acrylic ink. And I'm not going to need a whole bunch of it. So, just got to find a good spot to put it. I think my wet palette got a little dry. And I do have what I used on Anubis's base. Oh goodness. Was Seraphim Sepia from Citadel. And it wasn't enough. So I'm getting a little water, and I'm getting a little bit of this ink. Actually, I need to wet my brush pretty good. And I'm getting kind of mixing some water into the ink here. And I don't know if you can see that, how orangey red that is. But it's going to look like too much. First, but also it's behaving like a wash, so it's going to get down into some crevices and things. And I'm just going to paint the whole thing with it. And it's going to shade, and it's going to warm it up, and it's going to look really orange at first. And there might be a little too much white on the top of this, and so it's going to look like too much, especially on the top. I might have to repaint that, but to be honest, it's been a little while since I did this, and you know, I was trying to like sort of recall the exact formula that I used on it, because what I don't want is for it to look orange. This ink is like really potent stuff. It will run into the crevices just like a wash will, but also just like a wash, it's also going to sort of blend everything and pull it together. And if it behaves like I remember it behaving, it's going to mellow out quite a bit. So mercurochrome-like. The Norse had won the Crusades. That's interesting. The only alternate history I've ever read, that may not be true. That may not be true, but the ones I remember most vividly were the Harry Turtledove's books about the South winning the Civil War, which I can't remember the name of. And in the end, I didn't think those were all that great. Okay, I need a little more. The Seraphim Sepia is actually a little more brown than this. And I want to go through and kind of first of all, still got some spots I didn't get, but also want to go through and try to smooth it out a bit. I think perhaps what I did before was maybe I came back and did a brown wash. Way redder on camera than it does in person, I can tell you that. because I did use the same wash on here. So it's also possible that I used more water. We'll see what happens. It does dry a good bit lighter, but also I'll try a brown wash too. Well, since we're... Man, that is still not dry. Holy cow. You can see at the top, though, it is actually quite a bit mellower. But I think adding a brown wash will help. Tell you what, guys, we are really close to 9 o'clock, and I can't really continue because everything is taking so long to dry. So I'm going to go ahead and call it an evening. And I hope that you guys have a great night. Thanks for hanging out with me. Involves a time machine. Yeah, so Harry Turtle Doves was the same way. Like, I think it was like South African time travelers or something. But anyway. Hey, appreciate you guys. I'm going to switch on over. Appreciate you guys hanging out with me tonight. It was fun. I mean, I wish the paint had dried a little faster. And I'm experimenting a little bit because, like I said, I can't remember how I did these before. Hopefully it'll dry lighter than that. Not quite so red, but if it doesn't, we can always fix it. So thanks again. Don't forget to check out patreon.com/shortreststudios and Short Rest Studios on YouTube. And I will see you next Wednesday night. Take care, guys.